Hello, and welcome to NewPod. A widowed mother is walking beside her only son's body toward the grave. At the gate of Nain, her funeral procession meets Jesus and those following him. This is a story of two crowds meeting and of compassion rising in the midst of a loss that seems final. What does this story say about our fears, our hopes, and our relationship with God? We will not simply retell an ancient event. First, we will enter the scene. Then we will see how it sheds light on a human experience that is still with us today.
This story touches a deep fear, the fear of losing someone we love, and the fear of seeing the future close before us. Yet the passage does not begin with an explanation. It places us on a road, outside a town, among people in motion. So let us follow its pace. Let us hear what it says, and respect what it leaves unsaid. We will tell the story before explaining it. Reflection will come later, without erasing the mother's pain or turning the miracle into an easy lesson. The account is restrained, but every gesture carries immense weight.
The passage is found in chapter 7 of the Gospel of Luke. Just before it, Jesus healed a centurion servant. In that earlier episode, someone brought him a request, and his word crossed the distance. At Nain, the situation is different. Jesus is traveling with his disciples and a large crowd. As he approaches the town, another scene of suffering comes toward him. This time, no one asks for anything. No one presents a need to him. The initiative will come entirely from Jesus. That contrast already prepares us for the story's surprise.
Exactly. That silence matters. The woman asks for nothing. Her son cannot ask for anything. The crowd shares in her mourning, but Luke records no plea. He does not tell us what the mother is thinking either. He does not say what she may still hope for, or what she fears. He simply shows us her situation. She is a widow. The dead man is her only son. Everything is stated with restraint. The story lets the weight of those few words settle within us, without adding an explanation for her pain.
There are few central figures, but the scene is large. Jesus walks with his disciples and a crowd. A funeral procession comes out of the town. Many people accompany the mother. They witness her grief, but they are also following a path whose ending seems settled. The dead young man is being carried. His mother walks within the gathered community. She is not physically alone. Yet no one around her can give back the person she has lost. The presence of many people cannot take away her particular loneliness. The meeting takes place near the town gate. That is where the two paths cross. The crowd with Jesus sees the funeral procession. The crowd from Nain sees Jesus arrive. But Luke directs our attention to one particular gaze. Jesus sees the mother. He does not begin by looking at the dead man. He does not first speak to the disciples or the bearers. His eyes rest on the woman who is weeping. Before the extraordinary act, the story gives us this deeply personal attention. One person is seen among everyone else.
And the passage names what happens within Jesus. He is moved with compassion for her. The crowd does not force him to act. No one has asked him to prove anything. This woman's pain touches him. The miracle begins there, in a compassion that sees one person within a public scene. Many eyes may surround someone in grief. Jesus does not reduce this mother to her tragedy. He meets her at the very place of her distress. His gaze is already a form of closeness.
Then Jesus says just a few words to her, "Do not weep." Taken by itself, that sentence could sound harsh, almost impossible to receive. But in the story, it is neither a rebuke nor a request to hide her grief. It announces an action. Jesus does not ask the mother to summon courage on her own. He does not explain why she is suffering. His words are immediately followed by a movement toward the bier carrying her son's body. The promise held within those words is about to become visible.
Wait, let us stay with that movement. Jesus does not walk around the procession. He does not watch the sorrow from a distance. He approaches the bier and touches it. Compassion becomes concrete closeness. It leads him to the very point where human hope appears to end. The bearers stop. That detail changes the rhythm of the entire scene. The walk toward the grave is suspended. Both crowds now stand still around Jesus, the mother, the son, and the bearers. A silence filled with expectation seems to open in the story. Now comes the decisive moment. Jesus commands the young man to rise. All the tension in the story converges on that word. No one has brought this moment about through a plan or by proving they deserve it. The mother has negotiated nothing. The witnesses have arranged nothing. Jesus acts with an authority that confronts death directly. He is not speaking about a general idea of life. He calls the one whom everyone was carrying to the grave. His word opens a future where everyone else saw an ending. Here, the whole story turns.
Then the dead man sits up and begins to speak. Luke gives us these simple, concrete signs of life restored. The body that was being carried now holds itself upright. The voice that had fallen silent is heard again. The story does not tell us what he says, nor does it describe his mother's immediate reaction. It focuses our attention on the real change. The procession is no longer moving toward the grave. The impossible reversal has taken place before both crowds. Expectation has just given way to fulfillment.
And the next gesture is full of tenderness. Jesus gives the son back to his mother. He does not keep the young man beside him as proof of his power. He gives him back. The miracle restores a relationship broken by death. A mother receives her son again. A son receives his mother again. This detail keeps us from seeing only an impressive wonder. Jesus' action enters a real human life. Restored life also means a restored bond, a recovered presence, and a reopened future. The gift directly answers the suffering Jesus had seen.
The witnesses respond together. Fear takes hold of them, and they glorify God. Their fear does not make them run away. It expresses how deeply what they have seen overturns their understanding. They recognize that a great prophet has risen among them. They also say that God has visited his people. Their attention does not remain fixed on a spectacular event. It turns toward God. What has happened appears to them as a visitation, God's active presence among his people. Their fear becomes a declaration of praise.
The impact immediately reaches beyond the restored family. News about Jesus spreads throughout Judea and the surrounding region. What happened beside one widow becomes a public sign. The witnesses cannot keep it to themselves. Their words travel beyond Nain. One personal encounter now opens a far greater question. Who is this man whose word restores life? What does this compassion mean? What does this act reveal about God's work among his people? In this way, one person's story joins the story of a whole people. We can now move from the story to reflection. That distinction matters. The passage states what happened in the account. Reflection asks what this sign invites us to understand, without artificially filling in what is left unsaid. Let us begin with the human dimension. The mother suffers a loss that shatters both her present and her future. She receives no explanation for her suffering. She receives a presence that sees her, followed by an intervention that truly changes her situation. Her pain is neither minimized nor judged. The story welcomes it before leading us toward its meaning. This adds an essential nuance to the theme of faith. In other stories, someone asks, persists, or shows trust. Here, no prior faith is emphasized. Jesus' compassion comes before any human action recorded by Luke. We cannot present the miracle as a reward for faith that was strong enough. That would place a burden on the suffering person that the passage never gives her. Faith appears instead in the horizon open to the witnesses, when fear becomes praise as well, and the news begins to spread. Now let us consider the spiritual dimension. The sign reveals Jesus' identity and mission. His word reaches the one who can no longer answer and restores his life. Yet our attention is not meant to stop at extraordinary power. The entire act is guided by mercy. Jesus acts because compassion for the mother moves him. Authority and tenderness are not opposed. They come together. The power shown here restores both a person and a relationship. In the end, it leads the crowd to recognize God's presence. Jesus reveals that presence by raising the son and giving him back.
The miracle can therefore be read as a sign of the kingdom. Wherever Jesus goes, whatever traps human beings does not have the final word. At Nain, that announcement takes a radical form. A life is restored. The sign is completely concrete, yet it also points beyond this one story. It reveals the direction of Jesus' mission. God draws near. He sees distress. He restores. He opens a breach of hope in what seemed irreversible. The kingdom becomes visible in a life raised up and a relationship restored.
The biblical dimension appears in the crowd's own response. They speak of a great prophet and of God visiting his people. The witnesses understand that this event belongs to the history of salvation. They do not yet have every key to Jesus' identity, but they recognize that God is at work. The story continues the biblical hope of a God who cares for his people, especially those who are vulnerable. In Jesus, that work is not a distant idea. It comes near to a town, a crowd, and a widow. The history of salvation enters one person's story.
But we must preserve the tension of the passage. It does not promise that every bereavement will immediately be reversed in the same way. It gives us no formula for avoiding all suffering. Nor does it say that people who do not see a miracle lack faith. Such a reading would be cruel. Luke tells of a particular sign that reveals Jesus and his mission. We can receive its full power without denying the grief that remains, the long seasons of waiting, or the prayers whose fulfillment is beyond our understanding. Mystery does not erase the compassion revealed here. We now come to what this story can change in us today. The first movement concerns the way we approach suffering. We may be tempted to stay at a distance because we do not know what to say. We may also rush to offer an explanation. Jesus begins by seeing the woman. His compassion does not depend on her giving a perfect speech. That attention invites us to recognize the person before trying to address the problem and to receive their pain without reducing it to a formula. A right presence often begins with a truly attentive gaze.
A similar situation may be grief, loneliness, fear, or a future that seems closed. Any comparison must remain humble. No personal story is exactly the story of the Widow of Nain. Yet this account can help us name a place of vulnerability. Naming it does not mean dramatizing it. It means looking honestly at what weighs us down, isolates us, or calls for change. Biblical hope does not require us to hide our pain. Here, it begins with Christ seeing that pain and drawing near. This truth frees us from having to pretend.
Asking for help can then become an important decision. But Nain also reminds us that a suffering person does not always have the strength to ask. The mother remains silent in the story. Those around her can learn to notice that silence. They can offer their presence without intruding. They can give support without imposing their interpretation. Compassion does not force someone to confide. It makes help possible. It respects the other person's pace and sometimes accepts simply staying near, with few words. It also lets the person express whatever they can. One simple action can carry this reflection into the week. Check on someone who is going through hardship. Give them some time. Listen without correcting their emotions. Offer practical help. Respect their possible need for silence as well. These actions do not reproduce the miracle at Nain. They guarantee no particular outcome. But they can become modest signs of compassion. They tell someone that their pain has been seen, that their presence matters, and that they are not walking entirely alone. The right action will always depend on the person before us. Another simple suggestion is to read Luke chapter 7, verses 11 through 17, for yourself. Reading slowly helps us recover the passage's restraint. Notice the verbs. Jesus comes, sees, is moved with compassion, approaches, touches, speaks, and gives the son back to his mother. The bearers stop. The young man sits up and speaks. The crowd fears, glorifies God, and spreads the news. This sequence of movements helps us separate the story's facts from our own comments. It also allows us to reflect without rushing to a conclusion.
The central idea now becomes clear. Amid human decisions, vulnerabilities, and upheavals, a greater story continues to unfold. At Nain, it advances through Jesus' initiative. It reaches a person who has asked for nothing. It changes the course of a crowd. It restores a life and a bond. Then it becomes news shared beyond the town. The sign does not make death seem ordinary. It proclaims that compassion and life lie at the heart of Jesus' mission. The kingdom can be glimpsed in this restoration.
Before we finish, let us keep the question this story offers us. What part of the story of the widow of Nain's son speaks most directly to what each of us is living today? Perhaps it is Jesus' gaze. Perhaps the mother's silence. Perhaps the bearer's unexpected stop. It may be the word that raises, the son given back, or the witness's praise. We do not need to force an answer. The question can simply accompany a rereading of the passage and allow the word to gently illuminate our present situation. Each of us can hold that resonance in silence.
Let us take a moment to pray. Lord, open our minds to your word. Through the story of the widow of Nain's son, help us recognize our own struggles. Teach us to welcome your call. Help us move forward with greater honesty, trust, and faithfulness. In the suffering we encounter, keep us from indifference and easy answers. Grow within us a compassion that is attentive, humble, and practical. Sustain our hope when the way seems closed. Make us receptive to your presence and to the presence of our brothers and sisters. Amen.
We leave Nain with this simple, powerful image. Jesus does not pass by the procession. He sees the mother. He draws near. He stops the procession and gives the son back alive. The crowd, first seized with fear, recognizes God's visitation and carries the news farther. Here compassion is revealed as a sign of the kingdom. It does not lecture people about their pain. It is an authority that restores. It is a hope that opens the story beyond what the witnesses thought possible. The account is brief, but its movement stays with us.
Thank you for sharing this story and reflection on NewPod. In the next episode, we will continue our journey through the stories of the New Testament. We will move step by step, respecting their progression and their unique voice. We will keep exploring how Jesus' actions and words reveal his mission, meet human vulnerability, and show the signs of the kingdom. Until then, keep the passage from Luke open and read it slowly, as a word of compassion and hope. Our biblical journey will continue with the next story.